Hi everyone, trust you're all well, and can I, on behalf of the Executive and Finance Committee, wish you all a happy new year in the hope that 2021 is much more palatable than the one we've just left. Primarily, this message is to bring you all up to date regarding the funding we received from the SFA, but I'll mention that in more detail later on in this message. Firstly, you'll recall that the message I recorded just before Christmas, that we'd hoped that we'd be able to bring you some better news about getting back to playing football maybe this month. Clearly, the new variant of the virus and the ever-increasing numbers in cases and deaths, that's not going to be possible. Indeed, the Scottish FA have been put in a position where they've had to suspend all their matches out with the Scottish Premiership and Championship, and have even suspended the Scottish Cup for a period of time. Clearly, we don't know how long this is going to last, whether it's going to be a short-term fix or possibly a longer suspension. The COVID cases continue to rise. On a brighter note, the scientists and clinicians have produced a vaccine which has now been rolled out in Scotland, and the sooner the vaccines are administered and into arms, the sooner hopefully we'll get back to playing the game we love and miss. I told you in my Christmas statement that the National Secretary and I had spoken to the Sports Minister for Scotland and that we'd hoped to have some feedback by early January. However, as this particular minister had since left his position, we're somewhat back to square one on that. But we're still doing our best to get to arrange meetings with MSPs and the government and the SFA. I assure all of our members that the Executive and Finance Committee of the Scottish Amateur FA will continue to work as hard as we can regarding the pressure we're putting on MSPs and the government to allow us to get back playing at amateur level. Now, as I mentioned earlier, COVID cases are sadly deaths are rising at a frightening rate. We must all take cognizance of that. I would again urge you all, when the time is right and appropriate, perhaps once cases have subsided somewhat, to continue writing to your local MSPs and MPs in an effort to get them on side and to further put pressure on the Scottish Government. But as outlined a little earlier, this will take longer than I had hoped due to the increasing numbers of transmission of the virus. On the other hand, I'm happy to tell you that the Chief Executive of the Scottish FA, Ian Maxwell, has agreed to join us in a meeting with the Association's League Secretary in a few days. So if you have anything you would like to ask Mr Maxwell, contact your own League Secretary and request that they ask your questions of him during that meeting. You may also recall at the end of December last year, the Executive Finance Committee put out a statement regarding funding the association would receive from the SFA via the Scottish Government of £100,000. And on behalf of you all, I'd again like to thank the Scottish FA for awarding us that sum of money. In that statement, we confirmed that the entire sum would be allocated to our member clubs to help with the running costs of our teams during and after this pandemic. I can now confirm that, subject to the ratification by the Scottish Amateur FA Council, the Exec and Finance Committee have agreed a plan to allocate the funding award in total, plus some additional monies to clubs. And I'll now give you a rundown on how that money will be used. For those teams that paid the SAFA affiliation fee in the current season, we will offer free SAFA affiliation for 2021-22 season, which including second team affiliations amount to some £74,000. We also intend to offer free SAFA affiliation fees to all Highland and Islands members for 2021 summer season at a cost of £11,000. In addition to this, all member clubs who paid their public liability for season 2020-21 will have this cost free for 2021-22 at a cost of £34,000. As I'm sure you've all worked out by now, these figures will mean a direct saving by our members to the sum of £119,000. The Exec and Finance Committee also agreed in principle that we will look to make some more monies available to our member clubs in addition to the funding being made available that I've just detailed once the financial year end and the full impact of the pandemic are known. But again, I would emphasise that any decision taken would be subject to the Scottish Amateur FA Council ratification. I and the Exec and Finance Committee are hopeful that the allocations that I've just detailed will help, at least in some way, all of our membership moving forward into 2021-22 season and beyond. In the fervent hope that our game and clubs will be back playing regular competitive football in a more normal way than we have done in the past year or so. In the meantime, please continue to follow the Scottish Government guidelines and the Scottish FA protocols, and of course, take care and stay safe. Thank you all for listening.